The Galaxy S23 Ultra's camera is in general regarded as very good, but in my tests I figured out that I have some major gripes with its over-sharpened images and over-punchy colors. And in this video I want to show you how you can fix this on your S23 Ultra, and I'm not talking about fixing it in post, but fixing it before you take the picture. So let's get started. So here are the major things that you have to do on your S23 Ultra. First you go to your camera application, then you go into settings and you turn off the scene optimizers. You can either go in here and can say I want it to be optimized for scanning documents and so on, but we want to turn it off completely because this will fix our colors. So the punchiness of our colors will be far less with this scene optimizer in place. And another cool thing that you can do, but this needs a little bit of tweaking, is go into the Galaxy Store and find the Camera Assistant application. It's by Good Lock Labs, but I think it's Samsung itself, and if you have installed this one you can open it up and there you have various different options, and one of the options is picture softening. So you can turn on picture softening. I'm experimenting now with the medium option, but you can also go to the high option. What this does is tremendously reduce the over sharpening or sharpening effect on the S23 Ultra. So set it to medium or try the high option here, which might be a bit too soft for you. I'm using the medium option here and will show you now the differences in terms of photos that I took in medium and with this option turned off, and of course the scene optimizer as well. So let's check them out. Let's take a look at the photos. On the left you will see the default kind of setting until I tell you otherwise. On the right you will see the tweaked setting that I'm using here. And this is the default that you can see on the left, what you can get with scene optimizer enabled and the default sharpening. Before I zoom in and talk about the little nitpicks that you can see here, what we can see on first glance is higher contrast, punchier colors and sharper picture on the left. On the right it seems a bit of duller colors, a bit darker colors, not so punchy colors and not so sharp. Which one would you pick for social media? I think there's a reason why Galaxy S23 Ultra by default or Samsung decided to use the left picture, because if you have this zoomed out state, especially on a smaller screen, the left one looks a bit more pleasing than the right one for sure. But which one is more realistic? And now we come to the zoom and the individual steps here. First of all, here the punchiness and the colors completely different here on the tweaked version where I have disabled the scene optimizer. This is what the scene optimizer does. More realistic colors on the right. And then the softness and sharpness. Just look at the individual branches here on this tree. You can see that they are sharpened up heavily because we have a white outline left and right around those branches that you don't see on the tweaked version. You can also see here the colors plus the sharpness applied makes it look like that this tree's the main tree here is basically sharp, which is not sharp, as you can see here in the tweaked version, that we have this naturally not really sharp. So this sharpness that you have here is completely artificial, and this is very interesting to know. The other thing that you might notice is this handrail here has much more shadows and contrast. The sharpness is trying to get it also sharper than it is in reality. Because we have to have some kind of out of focus area as well, and we have this more realistic kind of look on the tweaked version. By the way, I'm just misspelled here. An R is missing. And the same goes here for this side. You can see how much sharpened, how much different the colors look like, how much contrast there is in this shot, which is not realistic at all. And this is now using the main lens, and what we want to do is now switch to the ultra wide angle where I can show you the same kind of thing. First thing that you notice is not so punchy colors on the right as to the left, and then when you zoom in you noticed immediately how over sharpened the look on the default settings is and how much softer it looks, much more natural it looks on this tweaked setting. And I prefer this tweaked setting because I don't like it to be so over sharpened. A bit more sharpness is okay, but not so over sharpened. And you can see it even in the background here, which one looks more natural for you. Yeah, you can decide, because I think it's a matter of taste as well, but I like the tweaked version a lot better, I have to say. And then we have the zoom lens. The zoom lens also profits from added sharpness in certain situations, but also in this case you can see the left appears to be sharper and more punchy. But what you can also definitely see, I think, even in the zoomed out shots, is it is grainier on the left than on the right. Now let's zoom in to take a look at how this benefits the right one. Here we have the shot where we can see, yeah, okay, it is correcting some things out, like it appears to be sharper here, this text on this ship. But also this kind of effect here, which has too much contrast, looks almost like MS Paint kind of job, which looks more natural on the right, to me at least. Then look at the flags here, where you can see already graininess that you don't see so much on the right. Actually, I don't see graininess. It's a bit blurry for sure, but I don't see graininess here. And you can see much more graininess on this flag, on this handle here. And the reason why is because the heavy applied sharpening is emphasizing the little grain that was there eventually. And this is something that creates this kind of very unnatural grain that I really don't like. You can see it also in the background when we take a look at the trees here and the sign there eventually, that we have lots and lots of graininess here that is not here, at least not so emphasized here on the tweaked version. And the same you can see also here, especially when it comes to the white dots here, how much more sharpened up it looks like, how much more artificial it looks like here on the default version of the S23 Ultra. So yeah, I really prefer the tweaked version here for sure. And now we take a look at the 3x zoom, which is the ship was moving, so I was taking it on the right firstly and then on the left secondly. But we can see the different kind of scene here. First of all, the 3x has a different color calibration than all the other lenses, so the scene looks different. Look at the green grass, it looks completely different than here, this green grass. It's the same grass, but here as well you can see it's the same grass. But which one looks more realistic? The more gloomy kind of look is on the right for sure, and this is the more realistic kind of look as well, I have to say. So even this look here, there was the sun coming up here behind the clouds. This is why you have a little bit more brighter light, but it was hidden here right now, as you can see. So it has to be a bit darker. So I think the more realistic look is on the right for sure. And when we take a look at the picture itself, it's not a bad picture at all. And also, yeah, the front here over sharpened. You can see the white outlines here around, yeah, every edge basically of this ship. If you take a look at the background and the ship there, also sharpened up, the church sharpened up, everything sharpened up here. I'm not sure which one you like better, but it's the same story as with the other pictures. I tend to like the tweaked version a bit better. Now we come to a very interesting topic here, and that is the macro shot. Because the S23 Ultra has an automatic macro shot it switches or jumps to by default. And when you have this activated, it is automatically applying heavily sharpening up, and it is cropping into the ultra wide angle that it's using for this macro shot. On the tweaked version, I had to go to the ultra wide angle, otherwise it would just throw out my settings regarding the scene optimizer and the sharpness or softness set. So I had to do it. I'm a bit further away because it's not cropping so much in, but I can of course crop in roughly the same. And there you can see that yeah, we have a bit of different colors here, but not so much of a difference there in terms of colors. But sharpness, look at how much sharpening it applied to this scene. It's just insane. It's just too much, way too much, and it's looking so much uglier than all the other macro shots that I tested before, where I also noticed heavily sharpening applied, but it did not look that ugly. And now let's compare it with the tweaked version. The tweaked version is definitely less sharp. You can see here the focus point was probably missed. It's not focusing on this droplet here at all. And do you see more details on the sharpened up version? Eventually, I'm not sure, but I'm really not sure, because the individual hairs here you can see as well is not so exaggerated as on the left. So which one do you prefer here in this close-up shot? I would prefer maybe something in between, where I have not so heavily sharpened up image, but I would probably go with the right image and would say, okay, I sharpened it up a little bit in post, then to go with the left image which is over sharpened, and I cannot rescue this anymore. So that's, I think, also very, very important. And now we come to a different kind of test. On the left, we now have the scene optimizer disabled, and on the right, we have the Pro mode enabled. And this is also something very interesting, because as you noticed, I said eventually that we get more realistic kind of colors with the scene optimizer disabled, but we still don't get realistic colors. It's just a bit more realistic colors. And if you compare it with a Sony Xperia, with a Xiaomi 12S Ultra, with its Leica Authentic mode, or even the Vivo X90 Pro Plus with its Size Natural color mode, you will see that the colors look a bit different, and they look, when you go to the Pro mode on the S23 Ultra, more towards what the Pro mode of the S23 Ultra is showing you. So this is the Pro mode here right now. You can see it is dark. It is not looking pleasant. And yes, this is the real look of the green grass here in the Pro mode. So if you want to get more realistic colors, even with scene mode optimizer disabled, go to the Pro mode of the S23 Ultra. This Pro mode, however, has some downsides as well, like for example HDR is not really applied. So you can see that we have a little bit overexposure here, because we don't have heavily HDR applied as well. What I noticed is in Pro mode, even with the softness set to medium, we have a little bit more of details. This might be due to this HDR-ish kind of look, or HDR applied here, that's brightening up the shadows a bit and making it look a little bit softer than this more contrasty look that the Pro mode by default has, because it is more realistic. So yeah, which one do you like more? I have to say maybe the Pro mode is doing a little bit too much sharpening up still, and reminds me a little bit more of the default mode. So it's probably not applying this soft medium kind of mode. So maybe I would like the colors of the Pro mode with the softness that you get with the tweaked version as well. So this is what I can say about this. And here we have a different kind of photo again, Pro mode versus the default mode. And there we can see very, very drastically the difference in HDR. Here it stays black because it has to be black, because it was black there. We have overexposure in the sky. Here everything is like gone. And when we take a look at here the mode again, you can see colors are optimized in the Pro mode, but the softness that I have here set to medium in the default mode with the scene optimizer disabled is still giving me this kind of softer kind of look, where the Pro mode is giving me this more lower over processed, sharpened up kind of look. So I want to marry them both somehow, but I don't know how I can do this.
If you want to have more natural kind of selfies, you can go onto this button, and here you have face, and sorry, there we go. There you can go to face, and you can turn off the optimizations for your face, and the same goes for skin color as well. You have the possibility to set it to normal instead of warm, and this enhances selfies as well.
Now let's come to the front-facing camera. As I showed you, we have various different settings. By default, I think it is asking you if you want to have warmer kind of settings or you want to have colder kind of settings when you first switch to the portrait mode or to the selfie cam. If you, I think, leave it by default, there's always a beautifying effect enabled. So even if you don't have it warm, you have it more natural kind of, then just think about the colors being a bit different. But the rest that I will talk about here will be the same. So first of all, the color difference, of course, warm versus more natural. You get more natural kind of colors on the right for sure. And on the left, you have more warmish and more punchy kind of colors. You can see it here also in the green grass in the background. More realistic is definitely the normal one. When I zoom in, when it comes to sharpness and details here, you can see there's almost no difference at all. There is also the setting for sharpness applied or not applied. I don't think is applying for the front-facing camera. At least I could not see much of a difference here. What we can see here is maybe the bit of softening of my skin and yeah, editing out some rough edges there with the default setting that is like beautifying the face a little bit here and there. And you don't, and especially like when it comes to like some kind of, especially around the eyes here, we can see that it looks a bit different on the right than on the left. It's not only the color, there's also some beautification applied on the left as well. But this is not a big difference in comparison to the difference that you can get with the back cameras for sure. When it comes to tweaking this. So here it is an individual like preference, which one you like better, a more yellowish kind of face, a little bit more beautified, or the more realistic look on the right. I can understand both are fine. There's not much of a difference also in terms of sharpness and differences there, or noise or something like this. Also the background blur and so on does not change dramatically here between those two. I would say the same kind of amount of noise, the same kind of amount of out of focus area. So what do you think about this one?